Mansfield today, and something a little bit different, because we've always had this sort of thing about doing charitable work, Samantha.
We have, and we always loved it. And everything we ever did, we tried to find a charitable angle on it and highlight people who otherwise might not have been able to get stuff for themselves, whether it was money or awareness or food stuff or blankets. I mean, my word, the stuff we collected, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, though, one of the biggest challenges that we have had, we sound like an old married couple.
The biggest challenges we've had
Well, the
has been
biggest,
your disgusting attitude.
I mean, I've virtually lived with this woman for years and years and years, and it's
And it's not done any of us any good. I mean, really, it hasn't. Although it has done a lot of charities a lot of good. I mean, I think the last figure we put on what we earned for charity. We did earn it because people trusted us with the fact that
not that we earned. The last number that we put on what we raised for charity.
Oh, I think it's the same thing. Because we earned people's trust and respect. And I think that the amount raised just at 947 alone sure was in excess of 15 million, 12 million, 15
closer
million?
to 20.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Hate to undersell. And then, with our other radio stuff on Hot 1027, was Hot 919 at the time, over what? Close on, I don't even want to guess.
I wouldn't be able to guess.
Lots of millions.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not just the money that counts. Sometimes it's the in-kind that counts. I think one of the biggest projects that we undertook came out of our first ever year of Christmas Wish.
That's right.
The big wish in that year was for a thing we had never ever heard of.
No, we really hadn't. We didn't know what it was. When we saw the email come through, we're like, what even is that? It sounds like something from Space Oddity.
Yeah. It was called a cochlear implant. And we dug into this and met up with a wonderful man by the name of Dr. Morris Hockman. And he guided us through this entire process. And after that Christmas wish had been granted, during the Christmas period, I started thinking that maybe there was something here which we should be looking at, because at that stage we were working only in radio.
Well, it's true, and we needed all the listeners we could get. And a cochlear implant gives people the gift of hearing.
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
It's
I mean,
true.
At one point, Jeremy was like, maybe I should be there when we turn the cochlear implant on. And I was like, she's going to take it back out again if that's the first thing she does.
So what we did is we sat down with Dr. Hockman and went off and worked out what we would need as an establishing fund.
Yeah.
To grant these cochlear implants on an ongoing basis and make it sustainable. And I remember walking with Dr. Hockman and the then chairman of Prime Media, Izzy Kirsch, into Brian Joffe's office. Brian at that stage was the boss man at Bidvest.
That's right.
And I think all three of us were a little bit nervous because we knew the number we were going to have to throw on the table, bearing in mind this was the early 2000s.
Yep.
And we were walking into his office thinking, we're going to have to ask him for 5 million rand. So anyway, I think it was about 8 minutes into this presentation that we put forward.
Our presentation, hey?
Yeah.
Begging session.
Yeah, where Brian Joffe turned around and said, whoa, hold on. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is where we get the boot. And he said, how much money do you need to make this sustainable? And Izzy Kirsch took a deep breath and said, Brian, we'd need 5 million rand. And Brian turned to his CFO at the time and said, just send them the check. Okay.
Lovely.
And that was the start of the Here for Life Trust. which we then ran while we were at 94.7 for quite a few years. And then I think it staggered a bit. So I had a brief conversation with Morris Hockman, who we're going to introduce to you now.
Yes, because he really is the brains and the heart behind it.
He is, absolutely. Morris, nice to see and hear and talk to you once again, albeit via Zoom. Thank you for joining us today on Mansfield Today. Do you remember that first meeting, and were you was your heart beating as hard as mine was?
It was. In fact, that very first meeting was incredible. And you know what was amazing was that when you guys agreed to do that implant on that patient, it was that breakfast meeting at Prime Media, and it was the first time that I met Terry Forklane, and she said to me, that why did I have a problem with doing this case? I said my problem was that we were picking one person out of our waiting list of a lot of people who no money, and what about the rest of them? And then she said, well, she'd been talking to you, and maybe we can get a fund together. So it was Friday, and I came home that evening and hadn't done my usual shopping spree of getting the challah and the stuff for Friday night supper. And my wife said to me, what happened to you today? Don't you remember it's Friday? So I said, yeah, but I actually met a fairy godmother this morning, which her name was Terry Forklane. And I think our problems with our implant program have been solved. We have somebody who's going to help us fund, because we had really failed in getting the funding, because it's such a huge amount of money for each implant. And it was unbelievable that day. I actually don't know how I got through the rest of the day working. It was amazing.
One thing I'd like to ask, for those people thinking, what is a cochlear implant? Why is that different from a hearing aid, and why is it so much more expensive?
So that's the basic question about cochlear implants. First, it's not a hearing aid. It's a complete electronic hearing system, where there are two parts to it. There's the outer part, which kind of looks like a hearing aid, but is really a speech processor. And that listens to the environmental sound, speech, whatever's going on, converts it into electrical signals, which are transmitted to the implanted device. And this has a receiver, which is another computer powered by the outside bit, that reconverts that signal. There's a radio signal that goes across that stimulates it. And then from there, an electrode array, which has been inserted inside the cochlea, has 22 little electrodes in it. And that stimulates the specific areas of the cochlea that then produce the sound that will be recognized eventually as speech. So it's an incredibly complex, amazing device with incredible electronics inside it. So it's something that is constantly being upgraded and perfected, so to speak. So it's not a hearing aid at all. So the cost comes into the enormous amount of research and the precision of its manufacture. A lot of it's done by hand, by incredibly specially trained people, done under microscopes in sterile labs. So it's a completely different concept, and is a very expensive thing to put together. And certainly the companies who make it know that, our constraints in South Africa, and we do get probably the best parts we could get from them.
Well, Morris, at this stage, you guys are operating under the Netcare Foundation.
Yeah.
And we will be approaching, when I say we, Mansfield2day as a team, will be approaching the Netcare Foundation with your assistance. And we'll go and bang on the door of I'm just trying to think whose door we can bang on as well.
All of the doors.
Well, all of the doors,
doors.
including the boss man of Netcare, who we know very well, and we would be very happy to regenerate this whole Here for Life Trust and put it out to our viewers on YouTube across the globe, and see if they can assist us, which I'm sure they will be able to do, and see how we can take this entire project forward and make it bigger and bigger and better.
That'll be amazing, because the need hasn't stopped. It's there. The moment we've got a backlog because we're waiting to see if our funding initiative through Netcare Foundation with the Mother and Child Fund Trust. So they funded us last year, and Charlene Swartz has done another application to them for 1.4 million for this year. But the need doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
You know, the state funding is still very little compared to the need in the country. Baragwanath get about 20 a year. And that's the funding for Gauteng, which is really problematic. The need far exceeds that. So with our Johannesburg cochlear implant program, obviously we're going to be, we really quite, when I spoke to Leonie Nauta, our coordinator, that we had contacted you again the weekend, she was really over the moon. So this is wonderful.
Right, Jim, how are you going to fix it?
Well, no. It's easy. It's easy to fix. What we do is we bring the awareness to the table, so that anyone watching this particular show on an ongoing basis will see what happens through these cochlear implants and see how it changes people's lives. And in that way, we will tap our sponsors and we will tap our viewers as well, and we will regenerate this fund into a sustainable fund that can assist not only little children, but adults as well, who are in a position, who have been vetted properly and are cochlear implant
Suitable.
Suitable. Yeah, thank you, Sam.
It's okay.
And we'll be working closely with Dr. Hockman and the Netcare Foundation as well to make sure that this gets off the ground.
Sure, that's incredible. That's really an answer to our question, because we were kind of in limbo, where with you leaving our media and all what happened, this is fantastic news.
Well, you see, some things come back to bite you once again, Morris.
Well, somebody's come to bite you too.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you guys.
Lovely to
Lovely
see
to
you.
see you as well. Wonderful man, Dr. Morris Hockman.
Isn't he lovely?
Yeah. And so, as I said, we will be working very closely with the Netcare Foundation, and we'll get this done with you
Yes, please.
along with us. Stay close.